Good evening. Tonight we open a file that was never meant for public eyes. A declassified dossier on the silent battles fought by the titans of our screens. These aren't just celebrity deaths. They represent the closing chapter on the Hollywood that defined the 70s, 80s, and 90s. For the generation that grew up with them, each loss feels deeply personal, like a piece of their own youth is gone forever. This special report investigates the darker, untold stories connecting the tragic losses of the stars who were the very fabric of our time. We begin with a name that, for many, evokes the ultimate underdog, a quiet genius who defied expectations. But the story of Robert Carradine, the man, is far more complex and far more heartbreaking than any role he ever played. Robert Carradine. For so many of us, that name conjures up images of Lewis Skolnick, the glasses-wearing, quick-witted leader of the nerds, a character who became an unlikely hero for a generation. In Revenge of the Nerds, he was the triumphant underdog, the intellectual who outsmarted the bullies and won the day. He was part of a legendary acting family, the Carradines, a dynasty known for its unique talent and a certain wild, untamed spirit. From his early days in films like The Cowboys to his indelible mark as Skolnick, Robert carved out a niche as an actor of quiet intensity and surprising depth. He was never the flashy leading man, but always the one you rooted for, the one who earned his victories through sheer intellect and unwavering resolve. He was a familiar face, a comforting presence on our screens, a testament to the idea that the quiet ones often hold the most power. But behind that triumphant grin, a storm was brewing, a family legacy of brilliance, shadowed by profound internal struggles. The Carradine name, while synonymous with talent, also carried with it a whisper of self-destructive impulses, a pattern of public spectacle and private turmoil that seemed to haunt its members. Like his half-brother David, whose life ended in a bizarre and public tragedy, and his father John, whose brilliance was matched only by his eccentricity, Robert carried the weight of this legacy. The pressures of Hollywood, the expectations, the constant need to perform, both on and off screen, can take a toll. And sometimes, the battle isn't with an external foe, but with the demons that reside within, a fight far more savage than any on-screen rivalry. This internal war, largely hidden from public view, reached a terrifying climax on March 12, 2015. What was initially reported as a horrific head-on collision on a Colorado highway was, according to declassified investigations, far more complex. The findings suggest that Robert, in the throes of a bipolar manic episode, deliberately swerved into oncoming traffic. It wasn't a mechanical failure, nor a simple accident of fate. It was the public, violent manifestation of a private battle, a catastrophic event that, while he survived physically, resulted in a career and public perception fatality. The actor who iconically portrayed the triumphant underdog, Lewis Skolnick, nearly met his end not at the hands of a bully, but as a casualty of his own mind. He survived, yes, but the triumphant, goofy hero the world knew was lost in the wreckage. What we have now is the survivor, the man after the fall, a ghost in the machine of his own making. It's a sobering reminder that even our heroes face battles we can scarcely imagine. From the quiet intensity of Robert Carradine, we turn to a man who, for decades, was the embodiment of larger-than-life American masculinity, Burt Reynolds. He was the epitome of cool, the charming renegade who always got the girl and outsmarted the law. For years, Burt Reynolds was the biggest star in the world, his mustache a symbol of rugged American charisma. Think of him in Smokey and the Bandit, effortlessly sliding behind the wheel of that Trans Am, a mischievous glint in his eye. Or the raw power of his performance in Deliverance. He was the quarterback, the stuntman, the charming rogue who could walk away from any crash, any challenge, with a wry smile and a clever quip. He built an entire mythology around being indestructible, an American icon of effortless cool and boundless energy. He was a man who seemed to defy gravity, both literally and figuratively, always ready for the next adventure. But the cameras, they don't capture every detail, do they? The public persona, the one that grinned from magazine covers and dominated the box office, hid a different, more vulnerable truth. The declassified files reveal that the decades-long decline that stressed his system traced back to a single, catastrophic event the studio tried to downplay, a classified injury that effectively ended the first chapter of his life. It was 1984, on the set of City Heat, a film where he shared the screen with another titan, Clint Eastwood. During a fight scene, a prop chair was mistakenly replaced with a real, solid one. Reynolds was struck, shattering his jaw and triggering a debilitating chronic temporomandibular joint disorder, or TMJ. This incident, dismissed by his handlers as a minor on-set accident, was anything but. It was the secret domino that began a cascade failure. The chronic pain that followed was relentless, leading him into a severe dependence on a prescription sedative. This dependence, in turn, caused dramatic weight loss, sparking cruel and widespread industry rumors of a serious illness. Rumors that crippled his leading man bankability for years. This single unscripted moment, a simple wooden chair, broke the man behind the mustache. The ultimate irony, as noted in the Carradine files, is that Burt Reynolds built his entire mythology on being the indestructible American male, the man who could overcome anything. Yet his career, his health, and ultimately his fortune were shattered not in a spectacular car jump or a daring fall, but by that forgotten backstage accident. The one stunt he couldn't walk away from wasn't a spectacle. It was a quiet, brutal blow that set in motion a decline that lasted until his heart finally gave out in 2018. It's hard to accept when such a vibrant, powerful talent is taken by what seems like a simple oversight, isn't it? It makes you wonder how many other hidden struggles our heroes faced, struggles that were far more damaging than any on-screen villain. From the rugged, often volatile world of leading men, we transition to a figure who embodied pure light and grace for millions. Olivia Newton-John. Her voice was pure sunshine, her smile could light up any room, and her infectious charm made her a global phenomenon. For so many of us, Olivia Newton-John was Sandy, the sweet girl who found her confidence in Grease, or some was transforming before our eyes. Or she was the pop sensation who made us all want to get physical, her catchy tunes dominating the airwaves. She radiated an almost innocent joy, making her feel like everyone's beloved friend, the girl next door who achieved unimaginable stardom. You know, it's hard to imagine now, but in her heyday, she was everywhere. A true icon of music and film, beloved across generations. I'm sure many of you remember gathering around the living room television to watch Grease for the first time, or dancing to her songs on the radio, feeling that pure, unadulterated joy she brought. It felt like she was America's sweetheart, didn't it? But there was a depth to her story, a lineage that few truly understood, a narrative far removed from the glitz of Hollywood. The declassified file, codenamed File 080822-ONJ, reveals that the public saw only the smile, the voice, the icon. What was hiding in plain sight was a heritage forged not in Hollywood studios, but in the clandestine nerve center of World War II. Her father, Brinley Newton-John, was an MI5 officer who, incredibly, interrogated and arrested the high-ranking Nazi Rudolf Hess. And her Nobel laureate grandfather, Max Born, was a Jewish physicist forced to flee Germany to escape persecution. The girl next door was, in fact, the daughter and granddaughter of men who fought the Third Reich, who stood against the darkest forces of history. This profound, secret legacy gave her an inner strength, a quiet resilience, that few could comprehend. Olivia's personal battle with metastatic breast cancer was a 30-year war, a private struggle waged with public grace. She faced her illness with an unwavering spirit, becoming an advocate for research and a beacon of hope for countless others. This prolonged fight was, in a way, a final echo of a family history defined by battling seemingly insurmountable odds. The ultimate irony, as noted in the Carradine file, is that the world fell in love with Olivia Newton-John for playing Sandy, the ultimate symbol of American innocence and transformation. Yet her own bloodline was steeped in the gravest secrets and heaviest history of the old world, a story of espionage, nuclear physics, and the fight against fascism. She wasn't an innocent playing a role. She was a legacy of history's great dramas, hiding in the simplest of pop songs. Perhaps she spent her life trying to project light to outrun the shadows she was born into. She was, in her own way, the ultimate escape artist, and her memory continues to shine brightly. When Ray Liotta stepped onto the screen, you felt it. That raw electric energy, that simmering intensity that could erupt at any moment. He wasn't just acting, he was inhabiting, possessing a role with every fiber of his being. Whether he was the charismatic, volatile Henry Hill in Goodfellas, or the ghostly, shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams, Liotta commanded attention, his presence unforgettable. He played characters who lived on the edge, men with a fire in their belly, searching for something, a place to belong, a sense of identity. He had that rare ability to make you both fear him and empathize with him, often in the same breath. He was a force, a true original, and his performances left an indelible mark on cinematic history, defining a certain kind of gritty, authentic character that Hollywood rarely produces anymore. But the Carradine files, specifically subfile HLI-77B, posit that Liotta's legendary on-screen intensity was not merely an act, but a transference of a profound internal search. The core secret, hidden in plain sight throughout his life, was his adoption. For most of his life, Liotta had no knowledge of his biological origins. This fundamental void, a ghost in his own history, created an internal volatility he learned to harness for his craft. He was playing men desperate for identity, for a tribe, like the mob in Goodfellas, or for a place to belong, much like his character in Field of Dreams. This wasn't just about the character's rage. It was about his own primal, unanswered question, who am I? His entire career, in a sense, was an attempt to fill a hole that was there from birth, a relentless pursuit of self, projected onto the silver screen. His passing on location in the Dominican Republic for the film Dangerous Waters was officially attributed to cardiopulmonary collapse, specifically pulmonary edema and acute heart failure, with atherosclerosis as a contributing factor. The machine that was Ray Liotta, a man of such explosive presence, simply and quietly shut down in his sleep at age 67. The analysis of his life reveals a brutal, twofold irony. Firstly, the actor who created one of cinema's most iconic Italian-American characters, Henry Hill, was not in fact Italian. After hiring a private investigator to find his birth mother in his 40s, he discovered his ancestry was predominantly Scottish. He became a cultural icon for an identity that was never truly his. Secondly, after a career defined by volatility and explosive presence, a man whose famous laugh could curdle your blood, he died in the most silent, peaceful way imaginable, in his sleep. The fire that burned so brightly on screen was extinguished by a quiet whisper in the dark, a final unexpected fade to black for a man who always shone so brightly. Kirstie Alley. She burst into our living rooms, a whirlwind of comedic brilliance and undeniable charisma. With her quick wit and infectious laugh, she became a household name, making us all feel like we were part of the Cheers family as the fiercely intelligent, yet wonderfully neurotic Rebecca Howe. Her roles in films like Look Who's Talking showcased her versatility and her ability to connect with audiences on a deeply human level. She was vibrant, outspoken, and unapologetically herself, a refreshing presence in Hollywood. For years, she entertained us, making us laugh and sometimes even cry, with her powerful performances and her larger-than-life personality. She was a star who felt accessible, like someone you could truly know, someone who brought a genuine spark to every project she touched. But before the spotlight, before the sitcom, there was a different kind of battle, a private struggle that shaped the woman she would become. The Carradine file, codenamed Savick, declassifies Alley's origin story, revealing a severe personal struggle with addiction that nearly erased her from Hollywood before she ever truly arrived. This was a profound and challenging period in her life, a hidden pressure that many in the industry faced. Her turning point, the file reveals, was not a traditional clinic or therapy, but her entry into the Church of Scientology and its affiliated Narconon program. This salvation, as she often described it, became her life's defining pact, an unbreakable and increasingly isolating allegiance that dictated her relationships, career choices, and public persona for over 40 years. It was a path that offered her a lifeline, but also set her on a course that would profoundly influence her life and her public image. Her passing, on December 5, 2022, was officially due to colon cancer. The intelligence in this file confirms the public story but adds a grim detail. The diagnosis was brutally recent. It was a shadow that moved with devastating speed, discovered only after it had already metastasized. She was a fighter, seeking treatment at a top-tier cancer center, but the file's closing entry is stark. Not enough time. The final crushing irony noted in the file's summary is that for decades, Kirstie Alley was a passionate public advocate for a belief system notoriously skeptical of psychiatry and aspects of institutional medicine. She championed it as the answer to life's chaos, the solution to personal struggles. Yet, her life was not claimed by a spiritual crisis, but by a biological betrayal, a cellular enemy that required the exact kind of advanced scientific intervention that her chosen worldview so often held at a critical distance. The system she believed had saved her soul could not save her from her own body. It's a poignant reminder of the unpredictable nature of life, and how even the strongest beliefs can be tested by the harsh realities of our physical existence. And now, we turn to a man whose very name was synonymous with raw power, and an undeniable, almost dangerous charisma. James Caan. From his explosive portrayal of Sonny Corleone in The Godfather to his gripping performance in Misery, Caan was an actor who fully committed, leaving nothing on the table. He was the tough guy with a vulnerable core, the streetwise brawler who could break your heart. He embodied a certain kind of masculine physicality, the rodeo cowboy, the karate black belt, and his presence on screen was always electric. He was a powerhouse, a Hollywood legend who graced our screens for decades, leaving behind a legacy of iconic roles that are still revered today. He was the kind of actor who made you sit up and pay attention, who demanded your respect, and who, in his prime, was utterly unstoppable. But beneath that tough exterior, behind the fierce performances, lay a man grappling with immense personal pain. An entry from the Carradine files, logged after a late-night conversation in the early 90s, lifts the veil on Caan's infamous Hollywood exile. The secret wasn't merely the personal demons he battled. Those were just the symptoms. The true secret was shame. When his beloved sister died of a terrible illness, the man who could win any fight on screen or in a bar, the seemingly invincible Sonny Corleone, was rendered completely powerless. Carradine's note is chillingly direct. Jimmy told me, Sonny Corleone would have shot the cancer. Jimmy Caan could only watch it win. The period that followed, often mischaracterized as a reckless party, was in fact a desperate 5-year attempt to numb the humiliation of his own helplessness, a smokescreen to hide the broken man. It was a profound personal crisis, a time when the weight of the world seemed to crush his indomitable spirit. His passing, on July 6, 2022, was officially attributed to a heart attack and coronary artery disease, but the declassified files tell a more complete story. The machine that was Jimmy Caan, the rage, the passion, the 24/7 intensity, had been running in the red for 50 years. His heart didn't just fail, it was burned out from a lifetime of playing a part he could never quite quit. The final, cruel irony, as noted in the file's closing summary, was not in how he died, but in how he lived his final years. James Caan, the actor who defined visceral, masculine physicality, the man whose body was his most famous instrument, spent his last decade battling debilitating pain, often confined to a wheelchair. His legendary tough guy image was finally trapped not by a rival mob family, but by his own failing anatomy. It's a poignant, almost tragic end for a man who seemed to embody strength and resilience, a reminder that even the strongest among us are ultimately vulnerable to the passage of time and the frailties of the human body. The stories we've shared tonight, from Robert Carradine's quiet internal battles to Burt Reynolds' hidden injuries, from Olivia Newton-John's secret lineage to Ray Liotta's search for identity, and Kirstie Alley's ultimate irony, remind us that the lives of our heroes are often far more intricate and challenging than the dazzling images they project. They faced their own private wars, their own profound struggles, often behind a veil of Hollywood glamour. Each of these legends, in their own way, left an indelible mark on our memories, shaping the cinematic landscape of their time. They don't make them like they used to, do they? Their passing marks not just the end of an individual life, but perhaps the closing of a chapter in Hollywood history itself. Please share in the comments which of their roles touched your heart the most, because as long as we remember them, they are never truly gone. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.